Welcome back, guys, to the Esports Weekly Live. Adanas joined by Fdot and Hinduman once again. We just finished week 3 of the Pro League, heading into week 4. But week 3 was supposed to be, what was it, free FP week?
Yeah, what about that free FP? Free FP week?
It was free FP week. It wasn't my fault that teams that underperform all season decide to play well. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Everybody at home would have voted the same way. Just want to clear that one out. Everybody at home voted the same way and blames me. I'm okay with that. You know why? Because it's free FP week this week.
Not again. Please.
This week.
Not again, Hindu.
My word, boys and girls. Free FP.
So this week, out of all the weeks.
This week. This is my one.
Can we just get on with it?
All right, guys. So 3 weeks of action is here and gone. Let's take a look at the North American standings and see where the best teams in the world are sitting currently. At the top, it's still AFK Gaming, undefeated, 8-0. A little bit of a surprise coming in second, though.
Yeah, I mean, this was, contrary to what Hinduman has you believe, last week was pretty much the week of the upset. Enemy was a part of that as well. And, I mean, at this point, I question, can we still call it an upset if Enemy is 7-3?
Here's the big key, though. If you look down those standings, all those teams, apart from Elevate right now, they're all in contention to go to LAN. I don't think any of them could not make LAN at this point. We could consider all of them potential candidates.
It should be pretty interesting moving forward in these upcoming weeks where these teams truly stand. I mean, right now, though, they're all taking games off each other.
Yeah. I mean,
looking at Europe, though, much like AFK, there is an undefeated team. That's going to be Epsilon Esports, and they've taken out some of the big boys, currently followed by Paradigm and Titan at 6-2.
Well, Epsilon is just, I mean, this is the continuation of the storyline, right? They just barely missed the Pro League in the spring. In the summer in the summer split, they come off, they make some mistakes, but they're starting to get their wheels under themselves. And then fall, I mean, you just can't stop this team at the moment.
I mean, you look at the rest of the lineup there, from what I can see from my standings, is that his top 5 is a split between the top 5 and the bottom 3 of this. We'll see the bottom 3 fighting to stay in the SPL. The top 5, though, all potential to go to LAN again. A little bit different compared to NA, but some of those bottom EU teams, well, at least all our teams over in EU have taken games off.
I feel like that 4th seed's going to come down to the last week, but it's going to be in contention with, honestly, more than 2 teams. We do have 4 days of play, though. Let's take a look at this week's schedule. We're going to be starting off on Thursday. But for me, though, I'm looking at Friday. I mean, this is the Battle of the Titans, pun completely intended, as Titan is playing.
Yeah, I mean, Friday, both of those games are insane. As you said, Titan versus Paradigm is going to be very interesting. We'll get deep into that in a little bit. And, I mean, AFK versus Team Solomid, this is the undefeated team this split versus Team Solomid, which is largely considered by a lot of fans at home as the overall best North American team. A lot of conversation there, but that's really, I mean, these are 2 of the strongest teams in each of their regions. Friday is one of my days to watch.
If you are a fan of Smite Esports and you want to watch one day this week, you want to watch Friday because they're some of the best teams we're going to see play.
A quick reminder, though, for those who haven't heard the news, we've released tickets for the Smite World Championship.
Hey!
Turn up. It was Friday it was released. It's going to be January 7th to the 10th. You can find those on swc.smitegame.com. And the tickets are, I believe, $100, so a little bit of a price bump. But if you're wondering what you're going to get for it, it's a lot. 4 days of esports. For the PC alone, there's going to be 10 teams, 2 more from last year, 5 regions, and $1 million on the line. But that's not it. We're also having the Xbox World Championships as well. That's going to be 4 teams between North America and Europe for $150,000.
Wow.
And also very exclusive swag. I mean, just last year, I think the SWC Ares bundle was worth over $30.
Yep. A lot of stuff that you got the last season. If you've seen all the sweaters going around, a lot of those were included in those goodie bags that you could get hold of too. Plus, we had things on sale and games for you to be able to play. Like we did last season.
There's a lot of exciting stuff. It's not just Smite Esports. There's a lot of other stuff going on. There's going to be an area to play Xbox Smite and just have a lot of fun. But let's talk about week 4 of esports. We're going to be starting off with Epsilon versus Mertens. And for me, this one, not really debatable too much. Epsilon's on a roll. Mertens are having some troubles. I'm looking at Epsilon 2-0ing.
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about how strong this Mermen's team is, and I still very much think that they're a very capable team, but I mean, this is the Goliath of Goliaths on Epsilon's side. They are undefeated. They're looking incredibly strong. Epsilon on top.
Yeah, the biggest issue with the Epsilon games right now is like finding things to discuss during the game because they're so dominant throughout the games at the moment. Very strong team, very consistent, continuously putting teams down that, to be fair, they should technically have a challenge in.
Yeah.
not looked challenged so far. And against Mertens, well, they've had issues with roster connectivity and players not being available. They need to work on that for themselves. This is a learning game for Mertens.
Yeah, and I think we can all clearly say right now, Epsilon, they're the big boys in Europe. Mermen just aren't there right now. But a game that might be a little bit more contentious, Denial versus COG. Denial, they've been on a downswing. They started 1-5, but they were able to take 2 games off Eager last week, while COG was able to take a game off TSM, which is a lot more surprising to me.
To you, maybe. I mean, we sat here just a week ago, and I knew that COG was going to step up and do their thing. I mean, this is a team, week 1, Pernicus said it himself, they just put it together. You need that time. Team Solomid, man, Cognitive Gaming, they came in, they knew what to do, they came out to play. I think that Cognitive Gaming can take off Denial, no problem. This team has come through, it's week number 4, let's go.
Don't hit the desk.
Don't
hit the desk.
Sorry.
Even production.
Why
do you have a COG jersey?
They got it. They got it. They're fine.
Why do you have a COG jersey?
Cognitiv's going to do it. It actually says Fdot on the back, believe it or not.
Really?
Did you go 2-0 COG?
What?
You went 2-0
Oh my
COG.
god.
Yes, over Denial. 2-0
Over
COG.
Denial.
Over Denial. I think that Denial is on a downswing, and that's going to hurt them. But Cognitive, after a win of Team Solomid, how can you count them out?
Split for me. As you can see on the screen, I didn't go away from that. I don't know what he's on, but I want some of it after the show.
I went for a split as well. One thing to note is I'm pretty sure he got that back when they were COG, like the World Championship team, which none of those players are on the roster anymore.
Well, it's about time he had a reason to wear it.
Oh! Moving on to the Friday matches, though. This is going to be the big boys. It's going to be the Titans of the Titan. Titan taking on Paradigm first up.
And those two teams, honestly, on paper, big teams. The only issue is that Titan really struggle against Paradigm. We've known this for a long time. Paradigm seems to have their number. Titan even admits, we don't know what it is about Paradigm, but we just struggle against that one team. So on paper, it should go to Paradigm. But Titan, doing a great season so far as well. Paradigm, they're there and thereabouts, had their struggles at the start as usual. But this could go either way.
To me, this is the quintessential split. This is when you use that split button. Paradigm and Titan, as you said in the past, Paradigm has had Titan's number, but just going off of sheer strength of each squad, I think that Paradigm and Titan are 2 of the more comparable teams on the upper end of the bracket. So as far as strength, they're both really strong, and they're both about the same strength. So I see this going right down the middle.
Yeah, for me, I actually went with Hinduman here. I have a 2-0 for Paradigm. I'm going with history. Ataraxi actually played some really interesting gods lately. I thought he was like a Hades-only boy, a chalk, like play the safe gods, but he actually brought out a really nice Ao Kuang, which you can see on screen against Mertens, and then last week he actually brought out a Hell, so the diversity that he's brought in these past couple weeks has really shown on me, but I do have to go with the history here. He's going to be matched up against Xaylia, and Xaylia knows how to abuse kind of the, I don't want to say newer faces because Ataraxi's been in SPL for a while, but kind of the solo laners that are also experimenting and trying to find their footing. We've actually seen him solo 2 out this split, which we basically never see. We almost never see a solo laner solo another solo laner.
Yeah, that was a big one for me. That's why I went Paradigm here, even though I said it could go either way, but Paradigm, they have Titan's number. It's been known. Both teams have recognized this. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, for me, Paradigm as well. I'm going with history, but it's not going to be clean. It's not going to be
No,
clean
not at all. This is going to be very tight games.
Another game that's not going to be tight on Friday is going to be AFK taking on Team Solomid. AFK not only undefeated, but also a very dominating fashion. Actually, Cyclone Spin last week earned, I believe, 73 plus fantasy points in their match against Elevate, going like
yeah, but he was farming on Thanatos. That's what happened.
It was pretty bad.
He was farming on Thanatos. That's all that happened. It wasn't anything special from my understanding. It was just like, let's just go around and throw scythes. Whee!
For me, though, I'm looking at the Boosh, and I believe the Boosh is actually probably one of the most dominant players on Team Solomid in Season 1, and we're not seeing that as much in Season 2. I mean, he's still playing solid, but we're not seeing this mid laner that no one else can really match up against.
I completely agree. I mean, this was the name. I mean, you guys both remember, all I have to do is say the raw play.
Yeah.
You guys remember these plays. You remember the Uller stuff. Like, there are things that stick out, and while he hasn't been slouching, I guess, in comparison to the rest of his team and what we're used to seeing out of Boosh, it's just not there.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, that was some of his good plays in the thing, but what we've seen more this season is more deaths, right? In the previous seasons, he was very hard to kill, always positioned greatly. Nowadays, though, he's either getting caught or the enemy team's just realizing to focus him down. Whichever one that is, it's hurting Boosh and TSM's playstyle around the fact that he's always generally safe.
Yeah, for me, though, this is going to be a 2-0 AFK. I think it's not going to be an easy one for AFK to take, but right now they are looking so good online. And while TSM is a very strong LAN team like we saw, they beat AFK 3-2 at the summer finals. Online, they have been struggling the past couple splits, while AFK has clearly been the dominant team.
Yeah, for me, for as easy it is for me to say 2-0 AFK, the opposite is going to be how hard it is for this team to go ahead and do it. As you said, Team Solomid, still very, very dominant team, but AFK, I think, will inch it out. Don't expect these games to be shorter than 35 plus minutes.
No, I think as well it will go to AFK. TSM, though, at the moment, they're looking rocky, to be fair. The teams that they dominated on last season, they're not doing the same thing this time round. AFK, however, they're still looking very strong.
Moving on, though, to the Saturday games, Mermens are going to have their first doubleheader, or not their first doubleheader. They'll be the first one to complete their doubleheader for the 4th week. And they're facing off against Fnatic, who have clearly been struggling. Although, last week, Captain Twig did have some nice games on Thor.
Here's the thing, though. We keep talking about Twig a lot. And for me, last week, he performed very, very well in his Thor. We know he's got a good Thor overall. And I think we can start putting this one to bed now, where it's like, oh, is Twig making this transition to the jungle? Well, he's there now, right? He's been there over a season. This is his 2nd season on it, and he's starting to have decent games on it, obviously, as well.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there was a point where Twig was making the transition to the jungle, and then it happened. And then this was just a slump. Almost every pro has seen a slump, and if they haven't yet, they certainly will.
Well,
it's just
it's
how
always
it
the case when you do a role switch as well. You have this situation where you talk about the player that's succeeding in the role more than the other. Twig, yeah, okay, he wasn't getting into the role as well, but he's there now. He is the jungler. He performed well last week. If he can keep that flow up, then things should carry on working.
Exactly. Like I said, he was in a minor slump, but last week that's how you get out of a slump. You come in swinging. That play right there, what was it called? The Wall of Doom, I think somebody called it. It was perfect. It was awesome. That's the first step. Captain Twig has found his footing. I expect this week for Fnatic to really turn up and Twig to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's going to be a 2-0 Fnatic for me. I don't know how you guys feel. Is it going to be across the board, same thing?
2-0 Fnatic for me as well. There's nothing on that that's going to change my view, especially with Mertens this season. We'll see how they do, though, because the Bruise Brothers in that duo lane, don't forget those Frenchies.
I love that.
Pretty damn good.
I love the Bruise Brothers. That's such a great nickname
really
for Jermaine
it's because
and Darda.
When they've come up against people every time in the season, they've dominated.
You said it mid-cast. Did you hear that from someone else? Or you
no.
Okay.
To be fair, it came from Mighty Ducks back in the
I
day,
know it came from Mighty Ducks.
That's what it was from.
Did you watch that movie the night before?
No, I've not
I didn't
seen
know
it.
they had
It makes me
that
want to watch it now. Talking
I know.
about it, yeah.
We're going to go home and watch it. Epsilon is going to be taking on Justice after that. This, as well, I think is going to be a 2-0, but Justice showing signs of life, actually upsetting, I believe it was Titan last week.
Big pickup for them to beat Titan, honestly. We weren't looking towards Justice picking up games that week, any of us, and that's why we're saying free FP week. Well, in theory it was. This week, though, definitely free FP week. Justice will not
It's not free FP week.
take that game. It's going to be free FP week.
Yeah, I think
wait till you see the rest of my
Justice has made a lot
predictions. It's free FP.
Justice has made a lot of strides. They've sort of changed around their coaching situation. So Flairboot's a little off, but right now they've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. They do about 4 hours of theory crafting, right? So I think this is a big deal. Justice is really serious about becoming a better squad. With that, this is definitely a week for them to sort of learn from their mistakes.
You're not going to bust out a Justice jersey? You got your COG one, because the way you started talking Justice up, I'm expecting it to come out.
No. Basically what I'm saying is Justice is doing all the right moves. Can they beat Epsilon this week? I mean, Epsilon is the Titan. They're the rolling force.
No,
I don't think
the Titan's the other European team.
Just take it, Kevin.
But just move on to the next one, because I'm really excited to see what happens to this jersey.
Okay, Cloud9 is going to be taking on Cognitive Gaming next, and I'm sure... why are you zipping it up?
Where'd it go, Fdot?
I got a little cold.
Cloud9 versus Cog. You mean you're not going for your boys?
I don't know what you're talking about. I just got a little cold, guys. It's a little cold in
So
here.
DJ Pernicus actually, DJ Pernicus and the boys Cog were actually able to have a fantastic upset against Team Solomid last week. Something I think we were all surprised about outside of Tom for some reason. I don't know.
So, I mean, looking at this squad with DJ Pernicus leading the charge, this is a very strong team. And like DJ said in the interview, 3rd week is sort of where everything came together and gelled as opposed to they finally got some practice. And practice in scrims, you can all you want, but it's really about playing on the professional level. And 3 weeks in, they've really sort of got it. As we said, they took a game off of Team Solomid, who we noted has sort of had their issues.
Yeah.
Cloud9, I think, is in the same role where they have their solo laner and then enough time to sort of gel and get together. Baskin is now a part of the team, and I think as much success that Cognitive Gaming saw last week because of the time being able to gel together, Cloud9 is going to be able to see the same thing and ascend to a level higher than Cog and just two other teams.
And we saw that with Baskin as well. I mean, Baskin for Cloud9 played very, very well. Nearly picked up that double when he dived him under the tower when he was against as Hades. But going back to the Cog overall, Cognitive for me, on paper, we said at the start of the season, very, very strong roster. Do I think they can beat Cloud9 right now? No. I'm going Cloud9 2-0.
I'm going to have to go with Cloud9 2-0 as well. Taking game off TSM is nice. Do I think they can keep it up and be consistent and take games off top teams every week? Like Hindu said, not yet.
I think these games will be close, but I think they will.
I think one's going to be a stomp, and I think one's going to be close, but TSM will come out in the end, in my opinion.
C9, not TSM.
Next up, though, the only team in the Pro League still trying to find a win. Elevate going to be taking on Denial, and these are important games for Denial because they struggled. They went 1-5. They won 2 games last week against Eager finally to bring the record to 3-5. But one game there was a DC, and the other game it was a very close battle for very late into the game. If they lose this, it's rough. I'm not expecting them to lose it, though.
It's important for Denial this week to make sure they beat Elevate. But for me, Elevate should be looking at Denial going, they are open for the taking to an extent. They have dropped games that they shouldn't have dropped beforehand.
Yeah.
This is a chance for Elevate to potentially get their first points on the board. That's what I'll be looking for from Elevate.
That's what I'm looking for. That's sort of what I expect. I think this is a split. I think that Denial is in a position where they can win. They can win. They're not a
You
bad
have to earn a
team,
jersey.
Elevate. This is
You have to an Elevate jersey. Is that what you're after?
This is definitely the game that Elevate gets their foot in the door.
This is what he does. He just goes splits on stupid ones and then goes, "Oh, send me a jersey, guys, and I'll wear it on stream for you."
That's his gig. And you know what, too? Tom's always like, yeah, I picked he gets one upset. He's gotten 2 upsets right so far, right? And both times he's tweeted it out and put screenshots of me and you saying oh, it's going to be a clear 2-0. But what he doesn't ever take mention of is that he also took upsets for 4 other teams that week, and they all got destroyed.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything about that at all.
All I see is wins. That's all I see. Wins. That's it.
What about the 3 that lost?
For me, Denial.
I don't understand
for me anyway.
I didn't split those.
Denial is the one that's going to win this 2-0 for me. Elevate do have a shot at this. I'm not going to count them out, but I think Denial should take it.
Yeah, Denial for me as well. So moving on, though, the last day of Week 4. It's going to be Sunday, and we're going to be introing that with Dignitas taking on Paradigm. So Paradigm here, they're looking strong. Dignitas, they were able to upset last week 1 game against Fnatic, a struggling Fnatic. I don't think they're going to be able to do the same against Paradigm.
I think we'll see is the question for me. Paradigm, see how they do against Titan for the first part, but I think Paradigm should realistically be able to beat Dig. However, if Dig can just come off the back of that win that they got against Fnatic and be like, come on, boys, we got this now, they could make a surge for it. I am going, to be fair, 2-0 to Paradigm here, but I just wanted to be clear that I think Dig do have a small shot.
Upset watch for you?
Small shot.
Fine.
But it's still free FP.
You guys always get on my case for being a little too split, happy, or whatnot. Fine. I'm doing it. This is Paradigm all the way. Dignitas got lucky with their win last week, and it's not going to happen again. Oh. Lightning only strikes once. Paradigm.
He's already got a Dignitas shirt, that's why.
He's already got a Team Dignitas jersey. He's not. He doesn't need another one.
No.
So for me, I agree. Paradigm 2-0 over Dignitas. Moving on, though, it's going to be Fnatic versus London Conspiracy. London Conspiracy, they're the European Denial, right? We always say, and Denial's the European London Conspiracy. Always sitting in the middle, take games off top teams every once in a while, lose against bottom teams, but for the most part, they're sitting there in the middle.
Conspiracy are one of these teams that play up. That's my opinion of them. They always play up against the opposition they're against. Coming up against someone like Fnatic, who, let's be honest, we've said it just earlier on because they're on a double header this week, having a few struggles this season. They're dropping games that we wouldn't have seen them drop, i.e. the Dignitas game. Shouldn't have really dropped it. Conspiracy can play up against these, and that's why they're strong. Shaggy Shank, though, one of the players of this team that we've not really spoken about much this season. Reason being is because it's always been about Emilzy and the 2 new players in the jungle and solo. But Shaggy, for the most part, he is doing work in that role.
I mean, I know you love that lane together. Emilzy and Shaggy Shank, they've been together for a while. Shaggy was the player to watch once upon a time when his team Coast sort of came out and had a fantastic surprise victory off of his back a long time ago. But I mean, he's good. I don't know if it's good enough to topple Fnatic.
this for me right now is Fnatic's comeback week. I think
yeah.
they were struggling the first couple weeks. They dropped a game to Dignitas last week. I think this is the week where they take 4 wins and get the ball rolling. If they can't, then it's real bad.
That's when we start the talks
struggle.
of like what happened to Fnatic, right?
Yeah.
But this week I feel the same way. I think they should take the games off Mertens and those ones off Conspiracy.
This is the week that Fnatic comes out and lets everybody know, yes, we are a top team in the region, and they start playing the games that Epsilon has been playing. I think that Fnatic is capable of it, and they haven't been showing it yet. This week is the week that it all starts at week 4, week 5, week 6. The orange and black are coming for blood.
Okay, moving on to the North American games on Sunday. These are going to be pretty contentious in my opinion. We have Team Solomid versus Enemy first. And Enemy is this team we look at each week and we're like, okay, they're at the top of leaderboards. Well, that's not going to stay there for long. They'll slowly mold down to the middle and the bottom probably. And, but each week they're like, okay, they're still second, they're still second, they're still second. And then last week they were able to take a game off Cloud9. And is this Enemy squad, are they legit? Are they actually a 1, a 2, a 3 seed team?
I'll let you take it first after that because I've got information on this, but I'll listen to you.
I mean, so I do think, for what it's worth, I was coming in here naysaying Enemy from week 1. I said, this is not a team that's going to be good, blah, blah, blah.
I think most of us were too.
Yeah, and I was very adamant about that. And, week 1, week 2, week 3, and I said on air week 3 when they play, I said, look, they're forcing me to take them seriously, and I respect that. I think that's awesome, and I'm glad they stepped up and proved me wrong. With that said, I think they will struggle against Team Solomid. I think that these games will be closer than a lot of people expect, but Team Solomid will eventually take on the top.
I think the big key here as well is the fact of these two teams. But there's a Reddit post up recently as well. You mentioned this earlier on today.
Yeah, by the numbers.
About the numbers and the fact that Enemy were behind against Cloud9 by something like 11,000, was it?
I think it was 7 or 8,000.
Yeah,
7 or 8,000.
What it was, though, was that 9 out of their 10 games, at 10 and 15 minutes, they're losing in gold at least.
And that's the big key about this team, right? Because this team on paper, when you look at them, they're one of these teams that fall behind in the early game. Their laning phase is not strong. We saw that against Cloud9. However, if they get to the team fight stage, their communication and strength is really strong.
Well, a lot of what this team is, it revolves around what Pain to Beyond has done. I mean, you can compare this team to what Raffer has done in Europe with Epsilon, although their level of success is a much different story. Basically, Pain to Beyond just grabbed 4 people that he thought he could teach the ways of Smite together, regardless of their mechanical skill or whatnot, and that's sort of where he pushed forward from. So it's no surprise that they're losing lane against people that are quote-unquote better, just flat out, from some of the stronger teams. But when it comes to team fighting, Pain to Beyond is using his hand-selected unit and his direction to really win these team fights. Now, Team Solomid, that's a team that's going to beat you in lane really hard.
Well, here's the thing. The other end of the spectrum, in that Cloud9 second game, we saw Cloud9 absolutely destroy them. And that's what they need to do, is they need to if Enemy gets shut down early in the laning phase and really brutalized, the game will end. If Enemy gets an inkling of team fights that are almost a chance, they could pull this off.
So they have to pick Finra.
I knew you were going to say it, and I was...
Finra because Brutalize. Get it? Because it's his ability 3 and it's...
I picked Split for this one, by the way, just to be clear. I want to put that one out there. I went Split because I actually believe Enemy will take a game off TSM, especially
I think it's a possibility.
TSM's
I put TSM here, and I do believe that TSM, you look at their record, they're up there right next to Enemy, but a couple of their wins were really close. Same as Enemy, right? It's not like TSM has been winning these games cleanly to sit at the current second seed or third seed. They've been struggling.
Exactly.
It's not going to be clean. I did give it to TSM, though, because I think individually, when those players are on point, I don't think anyone, at least in North America, can beat them.
Yeah,
I think that's how good they are individually.
It's one of those where I see we're coming from with the split. I'm not going to make fun of you if you're wrong, because I get it, but I do think this team still wins.
That's not even like a crazy split like you. He's not looking for jerseys. I believe him.
Can you just play my theme song real quick, please? Hit it, boys. Thank you.
I hear it, but it's really quiet in our headset. I don't know if it's loud to stream.
All I do is win, boys. That's all you need to know. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to record every single pick you did this week, right? I'm going to go, all you do is lose, because that's what your FP is going to be looking at by the end of it. I promise you.
My FP is in the trillions, billions, and trillions money. FP to the roof.
Who did you pick? Who did you pick for that?
Cloud9 versus Eager. Last match of week 4. This game's going to be pretty close, though. Eager also, I think, a record that's a little bit deceiving, sitting at 3 and 5, but a lot of their losses were incredibly close. They lost 2 against Team Solomid. One game came down to a split push where It's as simple as if someone had back to defend the Titan, they would have won. Or if they were able to lock down Gars at the enemy Titan, they would have won. I mean, that was like a base race with them getting the other Titan below 2,000. Like, it was that close. And another game that went like 40 minutes against Team Solomid. But then last week, Eager unfortunately had a disconnect, but they were actually winning their game down 4v5.
What the big kick, right? Just to be clear, everyone's like, oh my god, Eagle was so good then. Nobody sees a solo laner, right? Solo laners just stay in lane all game for like 25 minutes, then turn up, right? So it doesn't really matter that Omega DC, no offense to Omega, he's a great player, but no one cares about solo laners. They just sit there all day.
I completely disagree. Omega's the guy that has teleported 4 minutes. He's always ready to rotate to a Gold Fury. And, you know, for what it's worth, Laz's and Zapman, I'll lean on Laz's, but it really was a team effort here. These guys came through and sort of made this happen. Basically, the idea was, all right, Omega DC'd. We've got to hold out 10 minutes so we can get to his friend's house and reconnect. So they just won the game 4v5 for 10 straight minutes.
I mean, no, but you don't understand. It's just like in the solo lane, when the solo lane doesn't call a rotation, right? It's like, oh, well, we're 5v4 as usual. That's all Eager had to do. And these guys...
Lazarus hits the entire team with a Kraken.
The four-man team comp of Eager and every single team, honestly, those four play together a lot more than they do with the solo laner. The solo laner is left on an island. We talk about that so much. So these guys, they had an additional man to deal with. They did great.
I don't know, man. I think that this was... Eager really showed how strong they were. And because of that, I see this as a split. I'm not going to count Cloud9 out. They're the world champs. I think they're going to do very well in their match beforehand. But I do think Eager's a little hungry. I think these are going to be both very long, contentious games, and each team will wind up with a win. Split down the middle for me.
I went split as well. I think these are going to be some pretty contentious games. Eager, the record doesn't really speak to the truth. And Cloud9 also, 3-3. It's so hard, and it's so competitive right now.
Okay,
it's actually this
promise
close.
you free FP week. This is a split. And what's going to happen, I'll even tell you what happens in the games, okay? I'll tell you what happens in the games. This is how confident I am now. Cloud9 come out, do what they did to enemy game 2. Boom. Eager just destroyed.
Okay.
Game 2. Omega has enough. Flips his crap. DCs. Eager win 4v5.
Right,
Eager win 4v5 game 2. I'm calling it.
I want someone with your...
I'm calling it. Free FP week, boys. Free FP.
Kevin, can you get us out of here?
Still better than your COD jersey.
But there's also some other fantasy points that you may be looking at, guys. AlphaDraft.com. There was actually last week, I believe, Cycle and Spin had over, we said it earlier, 73 fantasy points against Elevate in his Thanatos game. So maybe something to look at here. We're going to take a look at the top 5, though, on your screen here shortly and see who's really leading the charge. Maybe some look-ats, but you also want to make sure to look at the matchups, right? Because FP may not be as easy if they're facing top teams.
Yeah, you got to look at how these players are going up against their opponents and really what that brings. If you're playing against a bottom row team, obviously your KDAs might be.
Where's your AFK? There's four AFK players. I'm going to need you to get your jersey on.
I need to call Weekend real quick. I'll be right back.
It's a good show though. The top team in NA, the top team in EU would make up the Alpha Draft.
I'm pretty sure that
I'm not happy
the next couple players are more than likely Epsilon.
Yeah, it's got to
be. They are, even against top teams, these teams are just clearly running the field. There's not many players or teams who are really coming close on the averages.
Not at the moment. Maybe Titan just on the drift of EU, but I don't know about NA's too close. NA's so close this season.
It's pretty.
It's nice to actually say NA looks competitive this season. I've not been hard to be able to do that since I started casting.
The only thing that I'm getting annoyed at is that every single day I'm like, why is Europe so bad, Hindu? Just jokingly, and he's like, at least all of our teams have won a game.
That's all I've got to say,
looking at you, Elevate. I'm looking at you. I need you to come up with something. I need to have something over Hindu Man.
Even Dig and Justice have won.
Anything. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the Esports Weekly Live. Thank you for joining us once again. We'll be back with you next week, at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Check out the games tomorrow starting at 4 p.m. Eastern also. But up next, I believe it's Incon?
Yep.
Enjoy the AFK, boys.
You really were a con.